Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Dan Reviews It. Merlin, special guest today.
Hello again.
And my name is Dan, and we're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 here.
What a rockin' volume it was.
Yeah, I would say so. We just confirmed here off air. I saw it opening night Thursday, you saw it Friday, so pretty fresh.
Pretty fresh.
I actually almost saw it again tonight.
Nice.
I had a couple hours free and debated, because I do want to see it again.
I want to see it again, too.
Yeah. Now, we both loved the first one. I think you maybe even more so.
I think I gave it an A+.
You were an A out of the gate, maybe moved it up to an A+.
Maybe.
I was A-, moved it up to an A.
Yeah. Very good movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
So how does this one compare? I thought it was pretty close.
Honestly, I saw it with a bunch of my friends, and we all kind of agreed that it's kind of hard to pick which one's better. Because they're good, but they're very different movies.
Well, and they each have their own distinct benefits. You know, the first one obviously is an origin story because we don't know these people from Adam.
True.
And obviously it was an obscure property to begin with.
A surprise, too.
It's a big surprise.
Big surprise.
But it's not like an Iron Man or a Cap where you at least, even if you've never read the books, you at least kind of have heard of them and know a little bit about. These guys were just out of nowhere.
Obscure characters.
You know, and so you had the draw of the actors. I mean, Chris Pratt obviously on the rise, Bradley Cooper doing a voice, Vin Diesel doing a voice, Dave Bautista, I didn't know.
Wrestling, though.
But wrestling, of course, so he had his own fan base. And then Zoe Saldana.
Star Trek and
Star
Avatar.
Trek. Yeah, I mean, she's obviously got a sci-fi pedigree.
Good group there.
And it just looked fun from the preview. So people went, it was great, and it was great.
It was great.
But because it was an origin story, here with Volume 2, you obviously already know everybody. So we start off with a really fun battle scene, and then move into the story itself, which is quite engaging.
Honestly, I would say more than engaging. I think the first one was definitely engaging and fun. This one was, dare I say, powerful and moving.
Deep,
man. I mean,
definitely deep.
A lot of emotional character stuff, and and I think that a lot of people kind of have a consensus. If the first one was kind of plot-driven, sort of to kind of get them from point A to point B and get the characters interact, this one we actually get to see all the characters fleshed out.
Right.
Much more. Like, everybody.
I agree.
And to see a movie where you've got all these different characters, but they all get something substantial is pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. And I would say there's at least 3 to 4 very moving scenes.
Yeah.
At least.
At least.
You know? And then you've got Kurt Russell, who is now...
Ego, the Living Planet.
Ego, the Living Planet, which they did the thing in the beginning that they did with Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War. Holy cow. Are they great at this?
Well, it's that Disney money.
It's the Disney money. You compare it to, God bless him, rest in peace, Paul Walker, but you compare him, you know, in Fast 7 to the Kurt Russell look and the Robert Downey Jr. And quite honestly, even going back a few years, Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
It's like they really have made this great, CGI art. And, you know, another Disney property, though, Star Wars, sort of missed a little bit with Carrie Fisher.
Well, I think they tried a little too hard with that one. But even that was still pretty impressive.
It was definitely better than the Paul Walker, for sure.
Well, I think that what was more impressive was the Moff Tarkin character actually...
which I'm not well enough versed in Star Wars to even know that actor had died, but when it was pointed out to me, I was like, oh my god, that looks great, yeah.
If you look at the actual pictures, it's like, wow, it's the same man.
Yeah, that is true, same man. Yes, bring it back. So it starts out with the great battle scene, then you see the Kurt Russell flashback of with the CGI, and then, of course, present-day Kurt Russell, you know, is in the movie prominently as well, as he was in Fast and Furious. And he was this great character, Ego.
Yeah.
And as was his, I don't know if sidekick is the right term, but his sort of lackey girl,
Mantis.
The Mantis. She was a lot of fun.
Oh, she was really cool.
You know, and there were some good jokes there.
Everybody's got a lot of line exchanges. They're very good.
Yeah. Okay, so the jokes. Too much with the jokes?
All right.
Because I thought maybe a little on this one.
All right, well, the thing is this. The last one, I think the whole thing was generally pretty humorous. This time around, they were going for a much more serious story, which I liked.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty intense. Some of the jokes were funny, but I will admit,
I think there were too many.
They were peppered out throughout it, and you thought, okay, here's a serious scene, and then they do some sort of pun or some gag that doesn't quite land. Like, I feel like maybe they weren't thinking as hard about the comedy this time around.
That's how I felt.
Which is like, not to say it was all bad. I chuckled quite a bit, but it wasn't as laugh out loud. But the more emotional and dramatic scenes were very effective, I think.
I thought so as well. Baby Groot is like my favorite anything ever. I mean, like we had talked about Baby Dory when Finding Dory came out, and it was like, this was just times 5, you know. Oh my gosh, when he's dancing in the beginning, just him waving to Gamora during this intense battle scene, and, you know, she stops what she's doing, hi, Groot, you know, and then goes back to killing people. I mean, it just set the tone
the whole thing.
For this really, really funny character who barely even really says I am Groot in this one because he's a baby.
Barely.
So he says it a little bit, but, you know, there's a great exchange with him trying to get something.
Retrieve the way to get them out of the cage to get Yondu's flute, his whistle, his whistle arrow thing. You know, and he keeps bringing back all these ridiculous things, and some of them get really. That was actually the funniest part. Is he brings back something that's really disturbing. Let's not talk about this again. I'm like, that's pretty great.
And that is a scene that went on probably a couple of minutes like that, and I didn't get bored with it at all. No. I thought it was very funny.
Though I will admit something to you, There's kind of a point where the team breaks off, and you've got Baby Groot with Rocket and Yondu kind of doing their adventure, trying to get back to Peter Quill and everyone else.
Right, and then you've got Drax and everybody on Ego.
And sometimes I actually got so invested in the Rocket and stuff.
I did as well.
I forgot about the Ego stuff. Like, yeah, that's right, they're in this too, because that stuff was so entertaining. I'm like,
really
you could just see them fighting bad guys on the spaceship.
Yeah.
Because that scene, which, by the way, it was pointed out just how overpowered his arrow is. But he takes out a lot of people in one scene, but it's beautiful. It's just visual.
It is actually, it's stunning.
I do want to take time. You'll probably agree with this, Dan, but I don't know. Like, the first movie was visually great. They're all visually great, but this one, just as visual entertainment.
Oh, it amped it up for sure.
The colors. There was more CGI this time, but I didn't care. I didn't care.
No, because it's well done.
It was beautiful. Like, there's even the end scene where there's just like a lot of explosions.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of fireworks in an end scene
for this kind of a celebration of a sort. And God, I was just, even like that little moment I was just mystified. Like, I could just watch them, you know, with these effective colors, just showing us that, you know, they're just showing off. But think about the time and effort to go into this firework effect. That's just so good. And I feel like that's how this whole movie felt. Is that I really felt like there was a lot of love put into this movie.
Yeah, there were, and you can tell. Yeah, because I think with that first one, like we talked about, they were just kind of throwing it against the wall and saying, like, look,
maybe
these aren't major characters, but let's just try it out.
It's kind of a gag, but we'll see how far it goes.
And, you know, critically it was well received. Obviously, it did great box office. So I think with this one, they did take more care in, okay, let's flesh out the characters. Okay, let's really amp the CGI up and make it look great. And I think it generally worked. One of the things that did sort of bother me with it is, and we get this a lot with certain superhero movies, is that there were almost too many villains. There's easily 3 villains in this movie.
All right. You know what?
And it didn't affect me as much because they didn't, you know, like in Spider-Man 3 they tried to give them all equal time, and that was a mistake, obviously. Maybe same with Iron Man 3. But here, I felt like there was, you know, really a main villain, and then the 2 side villains, you know, were given a little bit of due, but not a ton. So that's why it didn't bother me, but, like, it was on that edge of, like, is this too many villains?
Well, I feel like you have that, sort of that a concept of, you've got the main villain, you've got some minor side villains because of certain situations. But I think for the one villain, for Yondu's kind of arc, I think that was kind of more centered around him. I thought that was kind of okay. Though his joke, I thought, was one of the weaker things. Like, it was kind of funny, but I thought it went on a little too long.
Yes, I agree.
It's the same thing. We get it's a name. It's
Yeah.
not that bad of a name. It's stupid.
Right.
Anyway, the other people that they kind of betrayed at the beginning, I forgive me, comic book fans, I'll just say the gold people, the prissy gold people, who were funny.
They were pretty funny.
The video game people. I will admit, I kind of felt like they were amping them up, like they were going to be a bigger part of the story.
Yeah, and then they weren't.
They were just kind of a side thing, which I guess was kind of funny, but I kept thinking it was going to be about them, and really the main story is about Star-Lord and his dad, and kind of finding out his origins, and it's a great story.
It really is.
But I feel like it seemed like that was going to be the impetus to get you to another story, and they took it a very different direction, but the way it was handled, I felt like it was kind of a little disjointed at the beginning.
Right.
Because I kept thinking, all right, they're hinting at the gold people, their crystals or whatever are going to be important to the plot.
Yeah.
But no, not
They weren't really at all.
They became kind of a plot point.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe that's not really at fault of the creators, perhaps.
And slight spoiler, they do show up in one of the 5 end credit sequences.
Right.
So we know that we're going to see them again in the 3rd volume.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll have more of an impact there.
True.
But yeah, like here they just weren't, sort of left on the cutting room floor almost, it seemed like.
Honestly, to use a comparison, I don't know why I'm using this one, but Star Trek V, I know you haven't seen it, but
Okay.
there's kind of
Classic bad movie.
bad movie, but there's a main bad guy that's sort of in the whole movie, and there's a sort of a side bad guy that's coming after Kirk, but he kind of pops in and out, and you think he's going to be like a main villain, but
he's not.
he's just kind of there.
Okay.
This is kind of what that reminded me of. Literally, you've got them on a planet dealing with this thing, and in the background you've got the gold people like, we got to get revenge on them. It's a lot like Star Trek V in that way, which is sort of maybe a bad comparison. I don't think it's better handled here, but still, it's kind of reminded me of that.
Okay.
But no, you're right. They're gonna hint that they're more involved, and I guess since it's a interconnected universe anyway, you got to take that into account.
Yeah.
But then you got to also say, how does it stand within the own movie?
Right.
Actually, I want to ask you this, Dan, because this might be the first time you might ever hear this from me or anybody.
Oh wow.
But something that kind of irritated me.
Okay.
I like a good end credit scene or two, but
were there too many?
There were like 5, and it kind of
there were easily 4 to 5, and then all through the credits,
little
like I Am Groot pops up, like Groot was playing with the credits.
It was overload.
It was a little overload.
Something especially because it kind of ended on like a kind of a pretty sentimental moment.
Yeah.
And it was like all these gags. I mean, I get maybe 1 or 2 for levity, 1 for the next movie.
The very last one is fantastic and classic. But there were definitely 2 that you could have excised completely and not really missed anything.
Exactly.
So yeah, I agree. I mean, I love a good end credits sequence. Did we need 5 plus messing around with the credits themselves? I don't think so.
I think it was a little much, to be honest.
It was a little overkill.
But
I agree.
Honestly, and I gotta say, you said it, but yeah, Kurt Russell was great again.
He was great again. I know he's always really one of your favorites.
But he honestly he did really good job with this character. And I also want to make a note too. Something that is really good about this movie, that is strong points for Marvel. One of my big problems, what everybody's big problem really is with the Marvel movies, is that as often great as they are, they usually. What is it? They kind of have difficulty establishing really complex villains.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And the villain in this movie, there are a couple, but the main villain of this movie is honestly...
He's pretty great.
He's probably the most complex one. I think he might even be more complicated than Loki.
Wow.
I mean, maybe not as charismatic, but he is kind of charismatic.
Yeah.
So like the villain here was like, and very integral to the backstory of one of the characters.
Yeah.
And so it was just like... to see it done that well for once, as opposed to like on the last one.
You're right.
I did like Ronan the Accuser. I did.
He was all right.
But he's like, I am evil.
Yeah.
I will get revenge. That's it.
Yeah, you look at the list of, especially the recent villains. Ant-Man and Iron Man 3, obviously.
Evil businessman. Evil businessman.
You're absolutely right about that. And I don't believe that you ended up seeing Fate of the Furious, but to see Kurt Russell in a much better film with a much better script and a much better written character. Fast and Furious fans, okay, it's fine, but
it's not.
But it's corny. They're tongue-in-cheek movies, and this obviously had jokes, but like we said, Kurt Russell's character is very complex here.
Yeah.
And so to see that exchange just weeks apart is like, wow, this guy really still has.
Talent.
The chops,
you got it, but a good writer, good director.
You gotta give him a good project. How'd you feel about the soundtrack of this one?
Not as good.
Okay, not as good.
Not as good.
Of course, I'm a big music guy, and
not as good.
For me, the brilliance of the first one, soundtrack-wise anyway, is that All of these songs were fairly big hits, in the 70s. Obviously, you've got Hooked on a Feeling as a key component to that one. Here, I felt there was a couple really, really good spots where the soundtrack shone. Certainly, the song at the very end of the film.
Yeah.
And, they talk about the Brandy, You're a Fine Girl song as a sort of a plot point. That worked. But for the most part, there were songs I didn't even recognize, and I'm a pretty big music fan.
I know you are, and
I
remember there were some pretty recognizable hits on the first one that really stood out, and they really made you feel like each scene was connected to a lot of the songs.
Right.
This one, even
it was
thinking
more
back,
disjointed.
I can't really remember most of the songs.
Right. I can't either because I didn't know them to begin with.
Yeah.
So that because. Of all the Marvel movies, when you think solid soundtrack, Guardians is the one that pops out.
Yeah.
Most of the other ones really have score instead of soundtrack. There's very few hit songs in a lot of them. AC/DC sticks out with Iron Man, I guess.
I mean Black Sabbath.
But no, they do Shoot to Thrill.
Shoot to Thrill.
Yeah,
they do
and Iron Man as well.
And
the song, yeah.
I think the only other one I can think of that is big was in the second Iron Man. Wasn't it Robot Rock? I remember that.
Possibly,
I remember that one.
But Thor, I mean that's really score only,
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense. But the soundtrack was such a key component to that first movie.
Definitely.
I was surprised that the selections weren't a little bit more curated for this one. Or better curated, I should say.
Well, I guess maybe because they were going for something a little less jokey and fun, maybe they wanted to. But I don't know. If you think that you're going to use that as the marketing and people associate it with that, you want to have a strong...
Yeah, well, and it's supposed to represent his mother's soundtrack tape that she made for him.
True.
And,
And that was the one he got at the end of the first movie. That was this big deal.
Right.
Oh, it's Volume 2.
Oh my God, what's going to happen, in Volume 2? What songs are on here? And it's like, 3 of them. The rest are like, I don't recognize this at all. So I just thought that was weird. That is odd selection.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Though the way he gets beyond the cassette though for more music at the end is pretty great.
Yes, that is true. I liked that little joke there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Walkman does play yet again, into the plot a little bit.
The Walkman survived a lot of damage.
It did.
That was pretty great. I was surprised about that.
But I think everybody does a great job. Chris Pratt. God love him. He has a lot of great roles. Jurassic World, we'll see where he goes in that. Obviously, Parks and Recreation is where he got to start. But I think he really loves this character, and you can tell in his performance. Do you not feel that way?
Oh, no, I agree.
Okay.
I was thinking, based upon everything I've seen in Chris Pratt, he usually does pick a lot of fun projects. But in this movie, he was much more serious.
You can really see his heart and soul poured into this character, the backstory of the character.
Yeah, he was really feeling it.
Yeah.
Very good acting from him here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Zoe Saldana, again, at this point, almost sci-fi royalty between Avatar, Star Trek, and this.
Yeah.
But she does a great job with Gamora. Dave Bautista.
He did a great job.
Again,
honestly,
don't know him except for the other movie, and it's like...
He's,
I'm not going to say he's as charismatic as Dwayne Johnson, but these people that come from wrestling, obviously have
project and everything.
They have these.
He's so likable
personas.
Like he's into the character, and I feel like he's an alien. And, he seems like a fantasy character.
Right,
he really does.
He does,
and he's awesome.
And the writing, of course, helps. As well. But
from what I heard, he never acted before Guardians. He got into it, and he is sold into this character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. So he's great. Vin obviously
little,
does very little because Baby Groot doesn't speak nearly as much as regular Groot did. But he's fine. He does a good job. But Bradley Cooper, there again,
great from him.
A voice performance it's so good. It stands out from so many other voice performances from these famous people.
You do know it's recognizable as Bradley Cooper, but just the energy he puts behind it, it's like you could just listen to his voice, and with nothing there, and he'd probably be entertained. Like it's great.
It's so emotional. This character because he's sort of I don't want to say a disliked character, but a tragic character.
Yeah.
With the backstory that we sort of learned in the first one that is very tragic.
They expand on a little bit.
Yeah.
And like I said, that if there is the strongest thing about this film is that everybody. There's a lot of character exploration,
right? And
everybody does a good job with it between the writing and the acting. And just that as a character-based movie, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's really.
And I have to say, this is sort of something you touched on earlier. about the whole, like, you know, standing alone as its own movie, but also being a part of the MCU. Look, I like the MCU.
Okay.
It's fine.
You don't care about them with this.
But to be honest, I'm kind of glad that there is a standalone group that, you know, it's like, you know, yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming will be great. Iron Man 5, you know, we got it. Like, and then Captain America Civil War, Iron Man 4, you know,
Captain
Ant-Man
America
had some stuff. It's like
Avengers 3.
I like that there's something that stands alone outside of everything else.
You know what?
To be honest.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they are.
And I know they're going to do it eventually, and
they're going to cross over.
There bits and pieces already. I know.
But you know that is a good point, and I, you know, it's funny, and I think we've talked about it in the past. But the funny thing about a lot of these writers who probably worked on comics, working on the movies, is the marketing and the advertising and the writing is much better. But they're copying the same techniques they use in comics, where to get everything supported, everything's a crossover.
Right.
And I miss when characters have their own comic book lines, and I could pick up a Spider-Man book or see a Spider-Man movie, and it's just Spider-Man, his characters, his story, villain. There's enough.
Right.
We don't need to always have Iron Man or the Falcon in there. It's just like, can we chill a little?
And it's like I understand that there's so many diehard fans of these movies that they don't need to really explain things. You know, you see the Falcon in something, you're like, okay, that's the Falcon, cool. Falcon. But like, I thought the same thing a little bit with Logan too, because Logan is such a brilliant movie.
Yeah.
Maybe the best X-Men movie there's ever been.
Quite possibly.
But to really appreciate it, you kind of do need to watch like 6 other movies.
Yeah, if you come in empty, you're gonna be confused.
So I sort of miss the days of, okay, I can just see Guardians 1, and then I'll see Guardians 2, and everything's great.
But if you do see Iron Man 3, you might catch that one thing.
Yes, I know.
That's a good point.
And you'll never see it coming. Iron Man 3.
Do you want to view Iron Man 3 again? That was it.
No, I don't. That was my Iron Man 3 review. But yeah, so I sort of like that they're not, as of yet, dousing these movies with MCU.
Maybe that's one reason why they're much better. And
it might be.
And everybody loves them because they are still kind of independent at this point.
Right.
And, superhero movies were doing well before they were all crossing over.
Yeah, they were. That first Iron Man, was huge, and it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's true.
And it has nothing to do with anything else.
Except at the tag at the end.
Except for Nick Fury showing up. But again,
all solid.
The movie itself, though.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Guardians 2, though, definitely the same camp. I would say when I was watching it, I just felt like I was immersed in a really good sci-fi story. Right. And that's great. You don't see that too much in general anyway.
No.
But they really used it as a good, impetus to tell that, kind of as a project for them.
Yeah.
But it's good.
I agree. I think there's a lot of good things about this movie.
I guess negatives. The soundtrack wasn't as good.
Yeah.
Maybe the jokes weren't quite as good.
I think they were maybe trying a little too hard with the jokes in scenes that didn't need them.
Yeah.
Because the jokes worked so well in one. So that was definitely a little bit of an issue. Too many tag scenes. I don't know if I can lower a grade for that because they're credit tag scenes, but there were too many of them.
It was a little annoying.
And just sort of the villain aspect.
Too many
was maybe a little much. Yeah.
Maybe.
But again, like on that line, like not quite enough to be like, okay, enough.
Main villain was still good.
But the main villain was excellent, and the other ones were sparse enough that I enjoyed them.
Serviceable.
Yeah, serviceable. So for me, it's really just a slight downgrade from that first one, A-, which, as we already stated, was my original grade for the first one. So maybe after another watch, I will up it. But I do think this one has slightly more problems than the first one.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But the things that I think worked better in this one, I think really do work better. I think the drama...
Yeah, the emotional aspect of this trumps the original by leaps and bounds.
But the original, I think, was a little more sure of what it was, which is always a factor. I'm right there with you. I'll probably give it an A- too. It might go up too because Guardians is like an A+ for me.
Right.
So this one probably could go for an A. I was teetering on it, but you brought up the soundtrack thing, and I don't remember. It's
a factor.
I don't remember any of the songs.
Yeah, for a series that is as so far quite identifiable by the soundtrack, I thought they missed the mark.
Yeah, a little bit, but overall though, very good. I think.
Definitely, and I think both of us excited to see it again.
I want to watch it again. I might like it more the second time.
Yeah, same. You never know.
Yeah.
But all right, well that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up. X-Files reviews.
Yeah, is that a thing now?
From you? Well, the poll that was put up, that was the overwhelming favorite. A lot of love for Buffy though too. So I think we might do something with Buffy as well.
I'll say it here. Yeah, I was keeping a look at that. I hadn't looked at it in a little while, but yeah, if we do an X-Files, I'll definitely pop in for those. And if you want to do Buffy too, because that was a run-up, I'm fine with it.
I think maybe
I'll do some Buffy.
Because that had a lot of love for it as well.
And the advantage is I've seen both those shows, so
true.
A lot of it I could probably just go from memory if I need to.
Very true.
But I'd watch it again, of course.
Yeah, I'm excited. I stopped X-Files at like season 5, so first few seasons I know pretty well, but once the movie hit, I just lost it. So
it's okay.
Yeah, well, that's what I hear. So yeah, we've got that coming up, and of course, more of my own standalone reviews.
What's the next one you're thinking I can join?
I think the next one for you might be King Arthur, Merlin, obviously is a go-to.
If you review that one, I'll probably pop in,
and then maybe Alien after that. I mean,
I'll do Alien.
Summer season has started, so almost every week there's something big.
Yeah, honestly, I'm planning to see a lot of stuff for the summer, so there's probably a lot of things.
Possibly those two
I can join
for you, yeah. So, but that's it. Yeah, subscribe if you haven't yet, and like everything, and Merlin's own channel, of course. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.